So right now what we do, we're trying to understand what this diagram is trying to tell us. Let's start from this end. So it says there's a class. By the way, everything in blue here is just a annotation, not part of the real UML. So we have a class named customer, and customer of course has a name and the phone number, and it has a method saying add name and phone number, so we can add basically add those two pieces to the class. And then we say that the customer purchases a reservation. So the customer does not deal with a ticket directly. The customer makes a reservation, right? So that's why we say customer purchased a reservation. Those little annotation or role names on association help to provide expert user background on this design. Right? Again, when you create a diagram, all of this is optional. Just a line connecting two boxes is enough to create association. But in reality, typically you see more of information. Now we say that one customer can have 0 or more reservations, right? So you can add a customer to the system without a particular reservation. Right? They just somehow they're just registering themselves, and now the customer record exists. Customer object can also be created in memory, and therefore it doesn't require that a reservation also must exist at the same time. This is what this little asterisk indicates, that the customer can have 0 or more reservations. If you go from the reservation standpoint and try to understand the relationship between reservation and a customer, we say that reservation has a customer who is an owner of that reservation. Kind of silly example, but that's the way to go. Now we've seen this before. This type of arrow, of course, represents the hierarchical relationship between subscription series and individual reservation. Right? So if we want to purchase a season tickets, then we're probably going to use the type of reservation which is a subscription series. If we just purchase something once or make a reservation once, we're going to call it individual reservation. However, both subscription series and individual reservation may share a date, perhaps like an initial date or the date on which the reservation was made. That's why the decision was made to create a hierarchy of reservations, right? On top of the hierarchy, there's an abstract reservation which only keeps track of dates, but there's also specific type of reservations, and they can be a series of reservations or individual reservation. Reservation of what? Of course, you know, it represents a ticket. So what happens here is, if we examine, I kind of ran into this ticket and wasn't immediately interpreting it one way or the other. Let me try this again. So now I see that there's a ticket that can be associated with individual reservation. So let me forget about the subscription series for a second and just think about a customer who makes a reservation which happens to be an individual reservation. So I see that the reservation has a date, and now the reservation will have one ticket, right? So the reservation, this reservation can have only one ticket. Now, so because this cardinality tells me one ticket per reservation. And what happens here is that, so reservation will refer to an instance of a ticket, and the ticket says, ticket has a flag inside, a Boolean flag right here, which says it's available or not, true or false. And the ticket has a method which says sell this ticket to a customer, or exchange, perhaps exchange for another date or whatever the nature of that exchange is. Now, if this reservation is the subscription series type, then it has an integer which represents how many of those series are being sold, and that could apparently be number 1 or greater than 1. And it tells us here that if you have a subscription series, then you can have in a series minimum is 3 and the maximum is 6. So a subscription series could represent a relationship with the collection of tickets from 3 to 6. Okay, that's not bad information. Now, this diagram doesn't really tell me how it's done, what kind of objects or collections are going to be used. It's up to the programmer, but the programmer gets all this information and gets an idea of how many of what, and what kind of cardinality relationship exists. Now let me show you something else. Recall that unless there is an arrow of some sort, if no arrows exist, the diagram should be able to be interpreted in any direction. So, which tells me I can start with any class, and if this class, I can interpret the box, and if I'd like to understand the relationship to other parts of an application, then there should be some connecting lines. I have those connecting lines, and this is where it tells me, for example, ticket can have 0 or 1 individual reservations, right? So none or 1. Why is it important for me? It's important for me because it tells me that, you know what, you can create a ticket in memory and you don't have to have an individual reservation for it. It's okay not to have a reservation specified, right? So it can be 0 or 1. But if I do want to have a reservation specified for the ticket, then I cannot have more than 1 individual reservation. So I don't have to create a collection of reservations inside my ticket. Only one little reference to this individual reservation is quite enough. It's substantial, it's enough. Just one reference. But it can probably be null if there is no individual reservations. At the same time, each ticket also has the same relationship with subscription series, right? So in this case, a ticket can have 0 subscription series or 1 of them, right? So I cannot have 1 ticket associated with 5 subscription series. That's not by design. By design, it's not allowed. And then apparently performance, I don't know, my interpretation is that the performance has this set of seats available, and each seat essentially is represented by a ticket. And I don't know if I want to explore more of this. I may come back to this particular diagram, but I would hate to spend the rest of today with this particular diagram. Questions? Yes, please.
I just have one question. The constraint part, does that just mean it is either subscription series
yes,
or
good question about the constraint. What is this constraint? The constraint represents exclusive OR type of constraint. There could be a set of constraints, and exclusive OR says that all right. Let's save this segment.